उस कमिटमेंट के साथ जोड़ना जो इस राष्ट्र के निर्माण में और विकसित भारत के निर्माण में बहुत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाने की क्षमता रखता है। ये सचमुच एक ईश्वर प्रदत्त एक ऐसा अवसर है हम सबके लिए, जिसमें हम अपने अपने पद पर अपने अपने दायित्वों का निर्वहन करते हुए ही हम राष्ट्र निर्माण में अपना योगदान दे सकते हैं और लोक कल्याण के तमाम कामों को कर सकते हैं। तो ये एक सौभाग्य हम सबको स्वतः मिला है और उसी भाव के साथ इस दिशा में हमें मिशन कर्मयोगी के तहत कर्मयोगी के रूप में आगे बढ़ना है। तो आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा, आप प्लीज़ आकर समय बचाते हुए आकर बैठ जाएं और हमारे अगले जो बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण सेशंस हैं उनमें अपनी उपस्थिति को सुनिश्चित करें और उनके तमाम जो चिंतन है, विचार के बिंदु हैं, जो कहीं ना कहीं हम सबको किसी न किसी पड़ाव पर ज़रूर हमारा मार्गदर्शन करेंगे, उनके साथ आप रूबरू हों, उनको सुने, आत्मसात करें, उसका चिंतन भी करें। तो आप सबसे रिक्वेस्ट है जो हॉल के बाहर हैं कि वो आकर अपनी जगह ले लें। देवियों सज्जनों, कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग कमीशन की तरफ से एक बार फिर से आप सबका साधना सप्ताह के पहले दिन के हमारे लंच के बाद के सत्र में बहुत बहुत स्वागत, अभिनंदन है। उन तमाम चिंतन को, विचारों को और डिलिब्रेशंस को आगे बढ़ाते हुए हम अपने पोस्ट लंच सेशन की शुरुआत करने जा रहे हैं और ये हमारा दूसरा थीमेटिक सेशन जो हम पहले आपके सामने रखेंगे वो कर्मयोगी क्वालिटी फ्रेमवर्क को लेकर है। पिछले कई महीनों से सीबीसी की जो टीम है टास्क फोर्स मेंबर्स के साथ लगातार काम कर रही, डिलिब्रेशंस कर रही है, जिसका एक उद्देश्य और बहुत बड़ा उद्देश्य है क्योंकि उसका इम्पैक्ट बहुत दूरगामी होना है। आई गॉट कर्मयोगी प्लेटफॉर्म पर क्वालिटी को, गुणवत्ता को और बेहतर ढंग से कैसे हम सुनिश्चित कर सकते हैं। ये समय उस सेशन का ही है जिसमें उस कर्मयोगी क्वालिटी फ्रेमवर्क को आपके साथ शेयर किया जाएगा और इस सेशन को लीड कर रही हैं मिस उमा एस, एडवाइज़र लर्निंग प्रोडक्ट एंड क्वालिटी एश्योरेंस सीबीसी। शी इज़ एन एजुकेशनिस्ट एंड प्रोडक्ट आर्किटेक्ट विद 30 years ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस। एक लंबा अनुभव है उनका इस क्षेत्र में अक्रॉस लर्निंग डिज़ाइन, असेसमेंट, कॉम्पिटेंसी फ्रेमवर्क डिज़ाइन एंड टेक्नोलॉजी। और इन सभी अनुभवों के माध्यम से जो इस फ्रेमवर्क को लेकर जो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण कर्मयोगी क्वालिटी फ्रेमवर्क है उसको, इस सेशन को लीड करने के लिए मैं सबसे पहले तो उनको आमंत्रित करूंगा मंच पर कि वो आएँ और उसके बाद इस सेशन की जो प्रोसीडिंग्स हैं वो आपके सामने उनके माध्यम से ही आगे बढ़ेगी। तो आइए प्लीज़ वेलकम मिस उमा एस, आपकी तालियों के साथ।
Thank you so much. Very good afternoon to everyone. I want to begin with something very familiar to all of us. When we write a story, we don't start with a dialogue, or we don't even begin with a full-blown plot. We begin with audience. We start thinking about who the story is meant for. Is it for children? Is it for young adults or older ones? Then we decide about the genre. Should the story be a comedy or a tragedy, or is it a thriller? After we make these decisions, we start shaping the plot. What is the central theme? What the decisions of the characters must be? And then slowly comes the scenarios, the situation. The scenarios, the situation, the dialogues, and the characters emerge. Layer by layer, the story comes alive. But here is the interesting part. For the reader, the experience is the reverse. They encounter the scenes, the conversations, the situations, and then they slowly discover the plot. Designing a course is not very different. We often think that a course begins with content, but that's not the case. Course begins with learners. In Karmayogi Quality Framework, we start by asking the question, who the learner is, what is their role, what context do they operate in, and more importantly, what decisions and judgments are they required to make. in order to make correct decisions, what kind of competencies do they need? Let us look at now communication as a competency. If we need to create a course in communication, then we will look at designing probably a core module that tries to answer questions like, what is communication? Why do we need communication? What are the types of communication? Why is communication important? And if it is absent, what would happen? And now this is like the foundation of a story, which is the theme. But communication is not one size fits all. It plays out differently across different decision contexts. In Karmayogi quality framework, we call it as the decision archetypes. For example, some of the decision archetypes could be citizen-facing, policy and law, leadership and stewardship, and so on and so forth. And within each of these archetypes, the story further changes and depends on the decision complexity. The level of decision making varies depending upon a strategic decision maker, a tactical decision maker, or someone at an operational level. A strategic one sets the direction. The tactical one translates those directions into plans. And for operational aspects, the executing of the plans are done. What we are looking at here is the same competency, which is communication, but different expectations, different decisions, different consequences based on the decision archetype and the decision complexity, which means that the core module is not going to suffice. Then how do we design a course? So we have the core module followed by modules that are contextualized. And these contextualized modules are further tailored by role levels, which are nothing but strategic, tactical, and operational. They can further be divided into administrative role families, which are nothing but the hierarchy that we have in the government. Finally, once this is decided, we move on to write scenarios, caselets, examples, assessments. Just like a well-written story, the learners may not see this entire design. What matters to the learner is how they engage with the course. And when they attempt a course, they look at situations, scenarios, examples, they make a decision, reflect on consequences, and through that experience, develop the competency, and in this case, communication. So this is the essence of this Karmayogi quality framework. We are not teaching communication as a theory, but we are enabling the learner to practice communication in context. Let us take a quick look at the Karmayogi quality framework. What is displayed on the screen is a very high-level flow diagram. It typically displays 6 stages. These stages are sequential. It starts with a discovery stage, moves on to the design stage, and then there is development, then there is delivery, then evaluate, and then monitor and evaluate. These are the 6 stages which are sequential, and the last stage feeds back into the first one, which creates a continuous cycle of improvement. All the 6 stages are anchored in Karmayogi competency model, covering behavioral, functional, and domain competencies. Along with the decision complexity that we discussed, strategic, tactical, and operational, decision archetypes and administrative role family again forms the anchoring aspect. Each of the stage follows a very simple structure. There are tasks to be performed, there are clear outputs to be achieved, and there is a gate that ensures that a quality is met before moving on to the next stage. Further, the framework highlights how IGOT Discussion Hub can act as a practice layer to support learners in their learning journey. The framework also includes a phased rollout and governance model to ensure quality is sustained. So, in the last 3.5 months, dedicated group of people have worked on developing this framework. So this is not a work of any one person or one team. 4 task forces were created, and they represented experts from industry, academia, subject matter experts, content creators, along with learners themselves, represented through ministries, departments, and organizations, who shared their valuable inputs to build this framework. The entire framework is expressed in the form of a very concise flowchart that you're able to see on the screen. And this is the outcome. Although it looks very short and crisp here, it involves a lot of templates and formats behind the scene, which the operational team will be taking it up and working on that bit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Uma, for that insightful presentation and for bringing the depth and the intent of this Karmayogi quality framework forward so clearly. As ma'am mentioned, this framework has not been developed in isolation. It has been the result of sustained engagement and co-creation with experts and practitioners from across our government, academia, and industries. As part of that, I would now like to invite our distinguished task force members to join us on stage for our panel discussion. Mr. Paresh Saxena, IPS, Ms. Jyotsna Sitling, retired IFOS, Mr. Praveen Prakash, retired IAS and tutor at Physicswala, Mr. Rasesh Shah, COO Fractal, Ms. Anshula Dhingra, Emeritus, and Mr. Sumit Singh, Director, Capacity Building Commission. Over the past 3.5 months, this group has worked closely to shape the Karmayogi quality framework, bringing together diverse perspectives, engaging in rich discussions, and contributing to a truly collaborative effort. I now invite Ms. Uma to kindly take over the moderation for this panel discussion.
Thank you, Akansha. A very warm welcome to all the panelists here. I would like to start with Sumit sir. The task forces brought together people from very different backgrounds, sir. Public officials, technologists, academicians, learning designers. What did the diversity add to the thinking? Was there a moment when someone's perspective changed your thinking, sir?
So good afternoon all. Actually, I was taken aback when ma'am asked me to join this task force. I am a member of Task Force 1, who was asked to contribute in formulation of course quality standards and framework. And I must congratulate ma'am for having created a team of various stakeholders like industry experts, SMEs, and myself being from government service. So initially I thought how I could contribute in this thing, because I have never worked in any training institute. I have no experience of any course formulation and all. But later I thought that, oh, I am actually a user of iGot. So user's perspective is a very important part of course quality. And also having an experience in government working, the government system of working and the architecture, that experience is always there with me. So the iGot learning at present makes one to understand a concept and maybe in some bits to apply that part. But we in the quality by design framework, which our task force developed or contributed to, it moves ahead in a fashion that not only the applied part, we make the content in such a way that you have to, you are exposed to taking certain decisions that also in the working environment. So that was I think that as a group, when we were discussing and brainstorming the issues, we were taking a linear approach, traditional approach, like for this, the learning objective should be there, outcome would be there. But the Eureka movement came when, unfortunately, Shyam Sundarji is not here. He brought up with the idea, why not take it into the work environment, and that also particularly on the how in the constraint-rich environment of government working, how the decision in the ambiguity and all can be taken. So that was a very big, so all of us in the task force team, we agreed to this concept and we really liked it, and that's how we moved ahead. And that's how the quality by design framework got into it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Praveen, Prakashji, would you also like to share your perspective around the same question? Should I repeat the question for you? Okay. So we said that the task forces had stakeholders from multiple areas, industry, academia, technology, etc. Was there a moment when someone's perspective changed your thinking, sir?
I think for me personally, it was a big learning. Just recently only I have come out from the government. And first thing I must say that because we are working on this particular topic called quality, the way the whole thing we have gone about, that itself speaks about the quality processes which we have followed. I mean, those of us who are not the member of the whole journey through which we have created this framework, I will share with you in 2 minutes. The way it started was in December. We were sent 3 videos of the Karmayogi platform, iGot platform. We were asked, and we were from different groups, like now I represent a technology company, education technology company. People were there from the academic institutions, user groups, departments, and we were sent 3 videos. And we went through those videos. We came to this December workshop, and we were divided into 4 groups, and we were asked to then critique and then just have our brainstorming session, what all we should do to improve this, the experience for the users. I thought, being in government for 30 years, it's a starting and the end of all that which we have to contribute. But I think Radha ma'am had some different ideas. That was just a beginning. All of us were formed in 4 groups. And we met almost every week starting from the last week of December till today. I mean, like in technology-led teaching and learning, we call it blended approach. We were called in the beginning, then we were divided into the groups. Every week we were meeting, we were deliberating in all those issues. And then in between we had a physical session in Mumbai, and today today is the climax. I think this is a perfect example of, I will give this takeaway to my colleagues and friends who are from the academic training institutions. That's the way to design a policy. That's the way to design any program in a blended approach, and taking the feedback from all users groups, including people who are working in the field. As in the morning also, I think ma'am said, or somebody was telling that our 80 to 90% of workforce are in the field for whom we are designing this program. Having said this, I will just sum up what was from my subgroup was the takeaway as far as the quality is concerned. As in the morning also it was discussed, in the era of AI, it has to be hyper-personalized. The second good thing which I found, I mean, my experience in this, in participating in all those 8, 10 online sessions and these physical session was, everybody was given space and everybody came, and it was such a pleasant surprise for me that there was a time for the moderator. I must say that my ma'am, she is not here today. She is also a very excellent moderator. She gave space to everybody. We all were doing lots of brainstorming. So 2, 3 things which came out very clearly. The one is, in the era of hyper-personalized learning and the era of digital teaching and learning, the push has to come from the bottom. No online teaching and learning has succeeded in the world where it has been pushed from the top. Therefore, we have said, instead of having static learning, a dynamic learning. We've also said, make that type of Karmayogi Sahayak which we have, AI Sahayak which we have. Let's train that Sahayak much more. With lots of SLMs, we can train it. And the moment an employee joins a government, for his whole professional lifespan, he has that Sahayak with him. And because unless I handle in training my urgent and immediate needs, I will not focus on something which is important but not urgent. It was urgent and important. So that was one of, I will say, and we also said that, and that's a request which we thought we will make to different departments also, that whatever points this employee is acquiring, this Karmayogi points which employees are acquiring, please give weightage to those points. Whether HRD ministry gives those recognition to those Karmayogi points by converting into academic degree, whether department gives the recognition by incorporating in the transfers and policies or promotions, incentives, etc., etc.
Thank you so much, sir. Paresh Saxena ji, what made you personally connect to this work when you were invited to join the task force?
Thank you, Mari. It was a great opportunity. I had already an experience of creating more than 60 courses for Karmayogi, but there were certain questions which always bothered me. And those were that, like I created a particular course on subject X. Soon thereafter, some other agency will also put a course on the same subject X. Now, as a creator, I am passionate about my course. So I would start comparing, and then I found that the quality framework, since it was lacking, so it was always a question that whether the course which is not befitting this grand platform should be retired or not. This accountability part was missing. So there were many things as a creator I wanted to introduce, but I had no, scope to do that. Once this concept came that a quality control framework has to be evolved, then I had the opportunity to understand others' perspective and see how the professionals I must complement all the, private partners. I am talking from the perspective of being a government servant. They are highly professional. They brought into that academic flavor to the entire exercise. It was done the most professional. Hello. It was done in the most professional manner. And many things were, decided with the scholarship, with something with practical insights. For me as a government servant, the depth and accountability is very important. But for them, it is a professional thing. What are all the standards which are to be met? So this complete genesis of the framework addresses both the things that the consumers, the government servants, the employees, what do they want? Are they really getting the quality content or not? So this is something very great, and I think we have achieved together this very, very important milestone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Anshula. So, see, each task force worked on a different part of the framework over the past few months. When you heard the other task forces present their work in the Convergence workshop in Mumbai, the way the framework was coming together.
Yes, Uma ma'am, first of all, it's been a privilege and an honor to be able to work on this framework, because as a learning designer of years, I have worked with a different set of target audience. And working with this heterogeneous group where learning needs and motivations are so different, it was an experience and a learning for me. When we came together, and quite honestly, when task forces were subdivided and our tasks were subdivided, we saw a lot of overlap, because learning product is not like one outcome. It is a series of events, a learning journey. So therefore, there's a lot of overlap in what we do. We saw a lot of overlaps, but when we met in Mumbai on the 3rd of March, we saw how those overlaps were actually different expressions tied up together as things that flowed. So that was my experience and also my learning. And I think how it has come about is that it is quality is not a series of checks, neither is it an outcome or an event. It is a fiber or very much a process which is there in the conceptual clarity of how we begin. Like you said, that you need to know your audiences before you start. It is also the fiber of the blueprint that we do. It is the fiber of the learner journeys that we design. And then comes, curation or collection of ideas to put together a program. So I think we have seen, and it has been a great pause. And this journey for me has been to look at quality not as checks, but quality as a process within itself.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. Jyotsna ma'am, you've given a considerable time and expertise to building this framework, ma'am. What are you most hopeful about it? And how has your journey been in the past 3.5 months?
Thank you, Uma, for this wonderful question. Journey had been, it's so much of learning with others. That was very, I think, it was an excellent experience to learn as well as contribute with others. So this is first part. And second part, as you are telling, what I'm most hopeful about, basically. So I truly believe that, our country is very aspirational. So, as a state, we have to be very entrepreneurial. And at the same time, the first way to be an entrepreneur starts with the public servant. Given that, so, today morning we talked about public participation, how we work with Samaj, Sarkar and Bazaar. So, what I think is the participation is not a, governance obligation, but it is, I think it's a strong business case now for to be efficient, to be responsive, and to be collaborative in the state's interest, because it's very important. So given that, what I could see, the way I got modules are now, being conceptualized, will be conceptualized after this, after adopting this framework, and will be used after this, would really help to have that construct, have that architecture built around this learning system, which will I really look this from the point of view of our frontline staff mostly, who will be at the age cut level to deliver the service. And with all this, especially with the support of AI, they'll be able to develop a nimble, task-oriented, specific ground-level innovations in governance that would go a long way to support the public system delivery at the ground level. I'm very, these are my hopes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Rasesh? Yeah. Praveen sir, you want to say something? Sir, the Karmayogi quality framework is an evolution from the existing content quality framework. And you have been involved and led the task force too. Could you please speak something about it, and what did you add as a value in your task force?
So, yeah. So we have been, I represent Fractal. I part of building content for Fractal's clients throughout. Hello? Okay. So we've been building content, and the audience in task force 2, when we had to build in the content onboarding and development guidelines, I thought, it should be very simple, because we content, we know what content needs to be built, how it needs to be built. But the aha moment came in for me here was when we looked at the entire range of people for whom the content has to be developed. The complexities of the government in which we are working in, the different various ministries, different departments, the different roles, the different levels for which we are building the content, right? Building it right from a strategy planner to the on ground an Anganwadi worker, right? Now the multiple different permutation combinations is at a very different level. And therefore, when we are building this onboarding and development standards guide, getting all of these things in the document is one part, but getting it in a document that is usable by a larger audience is a very different ballgame. So getting concepts in place and translating that to a document that works for a larger audience, which is the stakeholders, and there are so many different stakeholders, was... Hello? Yeah. So getting in these documents to, getting in a document that can become a living document. Hello? Yeah. So getting in this document that becomes a living document, not only it just does not become a document, but a usable document by different stakeholders, and ensuring that the vision of getting in the quality levels at which we want was a very, very different and a very learning experience for all of us.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to, ma'am, add, I don't know anybody is there here from the finance department. See, around 10,000 man hours, expert hours from different stakeholders, people having 20 years, 30 years experience has gone into making this document now, how to improve the quality. Now it has to be now converted into the reality in the ground. And as I said earlier, one way is convert into a hyper personalized AI, enabler or supporter. And for every initiative, there's an appropriate time. For example, if you look at COVID period, so there was government, R.S. Sharma sir came up with the idea of COVID app, and then on the cloud-based COVID app, and the government supported, and India created the history. Nowhere in the world you can even go and say that the way the immunization was done. Go back further back, early 2000, when Rantala Chandrasekhar sir came up with a different model of giving investment, the support to the private sector to set up their development centers in a high-tech city, and the government of Andhra Pradesh supported him, and then the history was created. Today we all are very proud of Cyberabad. This is the moment. If we create, because in AI it is said, the more you train, more you give data. Now you tell me, which platform in the world has 1.5 crore users, government employees, and if it is trained on a daily basis by 1.5 crore government employees, 10 to 15 years from now, in the world, wherever it will be talked about the capacity building of civil servants through the AI-enabled teaching and learning, the Karmayogi 2.0 will be remembered. So this is the moment. I think government should seize this moment, invest in making that Karmayogi 2.0, train, make the best SLM, and as I said, make it hyper-personalized. And always when we invest in a project, I said, no, the concept has not been, rigorously prepared. 10,000 hours of experts have, time has gone into making this Karmayogi 2.0, I got 2.0 document. I mean, my request to the Government of India will be seize this opportunity and we will create the history in the area of capacity building.
Thank you, sir. This also shows that quality is so central to all this. Thank you so much. Sincere thanks from the bottom of my heart. This set of task forces have done tremendous work, and some of the members have not been able to join us, but we have other members with us. I would now hand over to Akansha. We will have a quick certificate distribution and a photo op.
Thank you, Uma ma'am, and to our esteemed panel for sharing their insights and experience in defining the entire process of this evolved definition of quality that has come out of this. As we come to the closing of this session, we would genuinely like to take out a moment to recognize and acknowledge the invaluable contributions of our task force members who have helped shape this framework. We would now be moving to the felicitation segment. May I request Ms. S. Radha Chauhan, Chairperson, Capacity Building Commission, Dr. R. Balasubramaniam, Member HR, Capacity Building Commission, Dr. Alka Mittal, Member Admin, CBC, and Ms. Chavi Bhardwaj, CEO, Karmayogi Bharat, to kindly join us on stage to felicitate our task force members. I now invite our task force members to kindly step forward as their names are called. Mr. Paresh Saxena. Ms. Jyotsna Sitling. Mr. Rasesh Shah. Mr. Praveen Prakash. Ms. Anshula Dhingra. Mr. Sumit Singh, Capacity Building Commission. Gaurav Jain, sir, Emeritus. Gunjan Gandhi, ISTM. Mr. Pavan Kumar, ISTM. Akshay Arora from CGIS, Mr. Shubnit Mehra from CGIS, Ms. Radhika Khurana from CGIS, and lastly, Preksha Duggar also from CGIS. Preksha. Ms. Kalyani Gokhale from Yashoda, Ranjana Sen Gupta from World Bank, and Mr. Mohan Nagarajan again from World Bank. Thank you again for all your contributions and for being a part of this important journey. I would like to invite Dr. R. Balasubramaniam to share just 2 lines as part of sharing of this process.
I really don't know what I'm going to speak because this is I can now understand what a batsman like when googling on it, especially if he doesn't know cricket. And that's exactly what I feel. I'm known to be a person who doesn't stand on protocol or all the ceremonial things. And so since I've been pushed into the ceremonial role by Uma, I just want to say great work done by the entire team. Very rarely would working with experts is not an easy proposition. Working with experts who know their job is a much more difficult proposition. Working with experts who not only know their job, but they think they are the only ones who know it, is an impossibility. Luckily for us, level 2 it stopped. They all knew their jobs, but they were so humble and simple in their outlook and willing to share everything that they wanted to tell us. And each had so much to offer. I think this rich document that you see, and once it gets converted into it's like, being a physician, we know that some ailments for patients are chronic. Now this quality passion for the government of India is going to be a chronic, not an ailment, but an obsession, which is possibly going to change the way governance operates. Because once you demand quality of not just the course, and the beauty of this document is it keeps the learner as the centrality of the whole thing. It's not the course provider, it's not the institutions behind it. All of them are stakeholders, they all are important parts of it, but the learner is what everything exists for. And I think it's not just for the Karmayogi Bharat portal, but also for academies. And once our CSTI teams also absorb and institutionalize this as part of the culture of the academies, the quality of capacity building of this nation will truly be altered. And I would like to thank each one of you for your contribution towards that. Thank you.
May I now request all the task force members and the CBC leadership to kindly join us for one group photograph. As we come to the closing of this particular session, I would like to take a moment to express our sincere gratitude to the leadership at Capacity Building Commission. We are deeply grateful to Ms. S. Radha Chauhan, Chairperson, Capacity Building Commission, for her visionary leadership and for setting the direction that has guided this entire framework. Our heartfelt thanks to Dr. R. Balasubramaniam for his constant guidance throughout this journey and for bringing his invaluable insight and expertise in shaping what quality truly means for public officials and their learning ecosystems. We also extend our sincere appreciation to Dr. Alka Mittal for her continued motivation and Mrs. Chavi Bhardwaj for her constant encouragement and support, which have been instrumental in driving this work forward. Their leadership and support have been central to the development of the Karmayogi quality framework, and we are truly grateful for their commitment. Thank you all again for our audience, for your presence as well as engagement.
थैंक यू सो मच सीमा जी, सभी टास्क फोर्स मेंबर्स और उन सभी का जो अपने अपने ढंग से मिशन कर्मयोगी की इस यात्रा में कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं और बहुत महत्वपूर्ण ढंग से कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहे हैं। दरअसल मिशन कर्मयोगी के साथ इस देश में लोक सेवा की सोच, उनका प्रशिक्षण, उनका अप्रोच, उन सब में जो एक क्रांतिकारी बदलाव की शुरुआत हुई, वो अपने आप में भविष्य को लेकर एक दृश्य पैदा करती है। हमारे सामने एक इस तरह का दृश्य जिसमें नागरिक केंद्र में हमारे दायित्वों का एक अलग स्वरूप निकल कर आता है और विकसित भारत का एक ब्रॉडर जो गोल है, लक्ष्य है, वो तो हमारे सामने है ही है। और इसीलिए ये पड़ाव जबकि हम दूसरे चरण में प्रवेश कर रहे हैं, इसके साथ जो ये साधना सप्ताह है, साधना मीन्स स्ट्रेंथनिंग एडेप्टिव डेवलपमेंट एंड ह्यूमन एप्टीट्यूड फॉर नेशनल एडवांसमेंट, इसके माध्यम से इसमें और ज़्यादा परिवर्तन, एक सकारात्मक परिवर्तन की जो कोशिश है, उसके रिज़ल्ट और भी बेहतर हो सकेंगे। क्योंकि एक बात, एक सोच और एक अप्रोच सीबीएसई की ये शुरू से रही है कि जो एपिसोडिक ट्रेनिंग का एक पैटर्न था लोक सेवकों का, उससे हटकर एक डायनामिक प्रोसेस इस तरह का और तरीका इजाद किया जाए, इकोसिस्टम बनाया जाए, जिसमें जब जहाँ जैसी आवश्यकता हो उस समय आपको उसके बारे में जो भी गाइडलाइंस चाहिए, मार्गदर्शन चाहिए, रास्ता, वो उसको आपको उसी समय मिल पाए। और आई गॉट प्लेटफॉर्म हो या इस तरह के और तमाम अलग अलग प्रयास जो सीबीएसई के माध्यम से, मिशन कर्मयोगी के माध्यम से हो रहे हैं, उसमें आपको इसी भाव के साथ आपकी ज़रूरत और आवश्यकता और आपकी सोच और आपके गोल के हिसाब से आपको गाइडेंस मिले, मार्गदर्शन मिले, जानकारी मिले, रास्ता दिखे। इस सब की बहुत महत्वपूर्ण प्रयास इसके लिए हो रहे हैं बीते 5 वर्षों में। और आने वाले भविष्य को लेकर भी जो कुछ बहुत ख़ास चीज़ें हैं जो अभी तक के हमारे प्रयास रहे, उपलब्धियां रही हैं, और भविष्य में एक जो विज़न है प्रधानमंत्री महोदय का विज़न, उसके अनुरूप जो सीबीएसई ने जो कुछ सोचा है, प्लान किया है, एक रोड मैप तैयार किया है उसको हासिल करने का, उसको लेकर हमने एक छोटी सी फिल्म तैयार की है। वो फिल्म हम आपके सामने रखना चाहते हैं, आप भी उस फिल्म को देखें, क्योंकि इस जर्नी का आप एक इंटीग्रल पार्ट हैं, आप हिस्सा हैं, और दरअसल आप ही हैं जो लीड कर रहे हैं फील्ड में, और आप ही हैं जो लोगों के साथ जुड़कर प्रधानमंत्री महोदय के विजन को साकार करने में भूमिका निभा रहे हैं। तो मैं अपने टेक्निकल टीम से रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि जो जर्नी है हमारे मिशन कर्मयोगी की अभी तक की, और भविष्य के लिए जो संकल्पनाएं हैं, जो विजन है, उस पर जो आधारित फिल्म है, वो आपके लिए प्ले करें।
विकसित भारत की ओर बढ़ते हमारे देश की प्रगति केवल नीतियों पर नहीं, बल्कि उन कर्मियों पर निर्भर करती है जो उन्हें जमीन पर उतारते हैं, जो जिम्मेदारी को केवल कर्तव्य नहीं बल्कि सेवा मानते हैं। यही भावना है कर्मयोगी की भावना। इसी भावना के साथ शुरू हुआ मिशन कर्मयोगी, और वर्ष 2021 में क्षमता विकास आयोग की स्थापना की गई। मिशन कर्मयोगी के प्रथम चरण में कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग के एक नए अध्याय की शुरुआत हुई, जिसका आधार रूल नहीं बल्कि रोल था। केंद्र सरकार के सभी मंत्रालयों, विभागों तथा संस्थाओं के लिए कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग प्लान बनाए गए। आज iGOT द्वारा विकसित AI एनेबल्ड टूल द्वारा 36 राज्यों और केंद्र शासित प्रदेशों में कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग प्लान्स तैयार किए जा चुके हैं, जिससे पहले की अपेक्षा बेहद कम समय लगता है। दुनिया का पहला पब्लिक HR कॉम्पिटेंसी मॉडल कर्मयोगी कॉम्पिटेंसी मॉडल बनाया गया। देश भर में अब तक 200 से अधिक प्रशिक्षण संस्थानों को सीबीसी द्वारा बनाए गए राष्ट्रीय मानकों के अंतर्गत एक्रेडिटेशन दी जा चुकी है। एक सशक्त कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग इकोसिस्टम तैयार करने के लिए देश के सभी ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट्स को इस मिशन से जोड़ा जा रहा है। इसके लिए एक रिवैम्प्ड एंड-टू-एंड पोर्टल बनाया जा रहा है। प्रशिक्षकों के लिए चलाए जा रहे फैकल्टी डेवलपमेंट प्रोग्राम के माध्यम से ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूशंस को सशक्त किया जा रहा है। आई गॉट कर्मयोगी प्लेटफॉर्म 1.5 करोड़ से अधिक लर्नर्स को जोड़ चुका है। 7.6 करोड़ से अधिक कोर्स पूरे किए जा चुके हैं। विभिन्न विषयों पर 4,400 से अधिक कोर्स उपलब्ध हैं। राज्यों और केंद्र शासित प्रदेशों के लगभग 1 करोड़ अधिकारी आई गॉट प्लेटफॉर्म से जुड़ चुके हैं। यहाँ 23 भाषाओं में कोर्सेज उपलब्ध हैं और 500 से अधिक कोर्स क्षेत्रीय भाषाओं में हैं। मिशन कर्मयोगी द्वारा अन्य कई इनिशिएटिव लिए गए हैं जो पब्लिक ऑफिशियल्स को नागरिकों के प्रति सेवा भाव की दृष्टि से कार्य करने के लिए सशक्त करते हैं। इस दिशा में सीबीसी द्वारा राष्ट्रीय कर्मयोगी जन सेवा प्रोग्राम चलाया जा रहा है जो ऑफिशियल्स को सेवा भाव के दृष्टिकोण से बिहेवियरल ट्रेनिंग देता है। इस कार्यक्रम में 10.7 लाख से भी ज्यादा ऑफिशियल्स को प्रशिक्षण दिया जा चुका है। राष्ट्रीय कर्मयोगी जन सेवा प्रोग्राम को ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट्स के सहयोग से पूरे देश में पहुंचाया जा रहा है। मुख्य रूप से उन कर्मियों तक पहुंचने का लक्ष्य है जो जमीनी स्तर पर नागरिक सेवा में कार्यरत हैं। सीबीसी द्वारा कई अन्य महत्वपूर्ण इनिशिएटिव्स लिए गए हैं। अमृत ज्ञान कोश के माध्यम से भारत की प्रशासनिक व्यवस्था पर आधारित केस स्टडीज को साझा किया जा रहा है ताकि हर कर्मयोगी एक दूसरे के अनुभवों से सीख सके। इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम्स की समृद्ध परंपरा को आधुनिक प्रशिक्षण से जोड़ा जा रहा है ताकि हमारी जड़ों से जुड़ा ज्ञान आज के प्रशासन को और अधिक संवेदनशील और सशक्त बना सके। स्थानीय शासन को भी सशक्त बनाने के लिए सीबीसी द्वारा पहल की गई है। विकसित पंचायत पहल ऐसा ही एक कार्यक्रम है जिसका उद्देश्य पंचायती राज संस्थानों का सुदृढ़ीकरण करना है। अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज के कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग के लिए भी क्षमता विकास आयोग ने पहल की है। अब हम मिशन कर्मयोगी के नए चरण में प्रवेश कर रहे हैं। आज मिशन कर्मयोगी देश के हर कोने तक पहुंच रहा है। आज भारत विकसित भारत 2047 के लक्ष्य की ओर तेजी से बढ़ रहा है और मिशन कर्मयोगी इस दिशा में निरंतर कार्यरत है। साधना सप्ताह राष्ट्र निर्माण के संकल्प को पुनः दोहराने का, एक दूसरे के साथ जुड़कर सीखने का, लोक सेवा में अपने योगदान को ध्यान में रखते हुए कार्यों को उत्साह पूर्वक करने का एक महत्वपूर्ण अवसर है। आइए हम सब मिलकर एक सक्षम और संवेदनशील प्रशासन के साथ भारत को आगे बढ़ाएं। हम बने कर्मयोगी।
थैंक यू सो मच फॉर योर ब्लेसिंग्स एंड योर सपोर्ट। देवी सज्जनों, ये समय जो है आज का, दरअसल ये समय, ये काल रिफॉर्म, परफॉर्म और ट्रांसफॉर्म का काल है और उसी के लक्ष्य को, उसी सोच को, विजन को लेकर कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग कमीशन भी इन तमाम प्रयासों को आपके समक्ष रख रहा है। आपको साथ लेकर उस दिशा में हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं और 8 अप्रैल तक का समय है हमारे साधना सप्ताह का। इस दौरान बहुत कुछ ऐसा होना है जो हमें इन लक्ष्यों को हासिल करने में बहुत महत्वपूर्ण सुविधा हमें देगी। ऑनरेबल डॉक्टर टीवी सोमनाथन जी, कैबिनेट सेक्रेटरी सर, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, हम सबके बीच यहाँ आ चुके हैं। एक बार जोरदार करताल ध्वनि के साथ आइए स्वागत, अभिनंदन करें। सर की यहाँ उपस्थिति हम सबके लिए बहुत मायने रखती है। देवी सज्जनों, ये सत्र हमारे लिए बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है और बहुत प्रेरणा से भरा हुआ होगा क्योंकि आदरणीय डॉक्टर टीवी सोमनाथन जी, कैबिनेट सेक्रेटरी, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, इस सेशन में पधार कर न सिर्फ वो अपना स्पेशल एड्रेस हमारे साथ शेयर करेंगे, अपने थॉट्स शेयर करेंगे, मार्गदर्शन करेंगे, बल्कि आपके साथ इंटरेक्ट भी करेंगे। हाँ, हम सब उत्सुकता से उस क्षण की प्रतीक्षा में हैं और उससे पहले मैं निवेदन करूंगा डॉक्टर आर बालासुब्रमण्यम जी, मेंबर HR CBC, कि वो आएँ और इस सेशन को इनिशिएट भी करें और सर से रिक्वेस्ट भी करेंगे वही कि वे अपनी बात, अपने विचार आपके साथ शेयर करें। डॉक्टर आर बालासुब्रमण्यम जी।
Namaskar. All of us know the Cabinet Secretary, and I don't think he needs any special introduction, but I'm going to make a personal introduction. If the CapSec permits, I'm going to make a personal introduction, I said. We today talk of citizen-centric governance, and as an ordinary citizen, living and working with indigenous tribal communities, I had a lot of challenges and problems with the government. And luckily for me, the CapSec was not the CapSec then, and he was a joint secretary. And he was the only one I knew, and I reached out to him. What happened to tribals and the rehabilitation is history today. And I think that was citizen-centric governance in its true manifestation when he intervened and got it happened. And to me, these are memories of the civil service. Being an outsider, you don't really imagine somebody so high up to relate so intimately to the problems on the ground, somewhere in a forest in Karnataka. So I fondly remember all those days when bureaucrats didn't have to be taught citizen centricity, because I think they came into the civil services to be citizen centric. And so I think for India, this is not a new thing. So from this morning, just to brief the Cabinet Secretary on what has happened from this morning, the Honorable Prime Minister gave us an address, a very inspiring address on beginning from Nagarik Devo Bhava and how do we keep centered on the concept of Nagarik Devo Bhava. He also spoke about how he conceived the mission Karmayogi, and I would again like to take 2 minutes to go back a little in time. When we all got our orders on March 31st of 21, we had no idea who the other person was and why we are all being brought together. And when we met for the first time, it was COVID days, we had to do it all online meetings. For the next 90 days, when we couldn't come and take charge in Delhi, we did online discussions. We must have spoken to at least 120 people across the world, the experts in this space that all of us together as a team knew. And most of them thought that this is going to be another failed experiment of any government in the world. That is how most people responded to us. From the deans of the Harvard Business School telling us that any learning more than 3 minutes, your officers are not going to learn, to people on the virtual learning platforms telling us that the conversion rates are less than 7%. How can you get your Government of India officials to stick on with their regular jobs onto the portal? To all kinds of experts. And I'm glad that all of them have been proved wrong. What the last 5 years have shown is an extremely inspiring storyline for every one of us. And the call of the Prime Minister, when we met him, when we took charge for the first time, he gave us a very simple episode, which itself it captured the entire learning philosophy. When we asked him what does he expect of us, he said something very phenomenal. He said, I don't know much about training. I'm not an expert. That's why we have appointed people like you. But I remember this much: when I was a party man, I had been to Gujarat, and I was the national organizing secretary of the party, so I went back to my home state, and I really was surprised to see in the party headquarters a training program happening. And I was fascinated that there was absolutely no training. There are 300 people from the jillas and panchayat sitting there, and somebody telling them how to write a press note and give a press note. And I was sitting in the audience and realized if this is the quality of training that our future politicians who can come up to parliament are getting, God help this nation. And so he said, I had no idea how to intervene, but I jumped in and I told them, आज सुबह से शाम तक यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं, इसको एक पेज में अगर आप लिख पाएंगे और मीडिया को दे देंगे, अगर वो पब्लिश करने के लिए तैयार हैं तो आपने सीख लिया होगा. So he said, I made them write what they went through. I only was there for 20 minutes. Then I made an offer as National Organizing Secretary, and that being Gujarat, I said, whoever I think is the best, I'll actually get it published. And I realized not a single person could write. Then I thought I should possibly teach them. So the message he gave us was, he said, practitioners would be the best people to teach our officers. So our academies should have extraordinary practitioners who can become role models to teach our people. And they would be the best ones to know where the shoe is pinching. So I knew how to give a press note. I was not trained in communication, but I just told them how it should do. And I said, if the media takes it and publishes it, that is performance. I think that is a very simplistic way of defining performance. And I think for all of us, I don't think training by itself is a standalone product. I don't think learning by itself is just a natural consequence that follows from training. But I think there's a lot of things in this equation. We all come together, we train ourselves, train each other, learn from each other, but we more importantly start learning how to use this knowledge. And so when the Prime Minister said today morning, Nagarik Devo Bhava, for me that was the end outcome of all that we are doing together. And so without carrying on about what happened the whole day, so we had the Prime Minister's call, then we had the Principal Secretary of the Prime Minister telling us in detail about all that has happened, and he was appreciative of all the programs and the work that the CBC has done for 5 years, and the Jan Seva program. One of the first offices which are saturated in this country. For me, again, these are all memories which I'll cherish, because the first office which actually saturated the program in this country was the Cabinet Secretary's office in the Jan Seva program. And the Prime Minister's office is also saturated. So this kind of a support for a program or for a transformative exercise that a government is standing behind, I do believe that governance is not something which it will only get better and better every day in this nation, and we'll be able to deliver what we're all set out to. We also had a discussion on how do we really put together the supply side of the ecosystem and transform them into a demand-driven, highly energized, tech-enabled, integrated network. And again, a very democratically done process of workshops across the nation, academies participating, different cadre controlling authorities contributing to it. And then we had quality. As a person who's passionately devoted to demanding quality, I think what we have done today, like Prakash said in the conversation, it's going to be a watershed moment, not just for India's learning. I think it will be a watershed moment for the world's learning of our understanding how civil services can be trained. The way it's emerged, contributions from several people across the country, users, providers, academies. I think these two workshops are, again, stands testimony to the fact that if you're a practitioner and passionately devoted to converting that into knowledge for others, these kind of things can emerge. And what the Prime Minister said then, practitioners are the best people to deliver capacity building. I think these two products stand testimony to that. More importantly, what is also reassuring is we had secretaries participating, not just in programs, but also here in our program. I know how busy everybody, every one of you is, and still taking time. I really don't know much of protocol, etc. So I would simply write or call up secretaries or joint secretaries and say, please come and help us out in this program. And nobody ever told me first learn protocol. They really, really jumped in, supported us, and the kind of conviction that we saw in all of them in wanting to make things better is a remarkable feat by itself. Now I would like to welcome, like I said, the simplest way to introduce him was to introduce him as a friend. And so I thought, a friend who was supporting people in need in the kind of situation that we were in. And today it's an honor and a privilege to have him here with us. And after his conversation, he's agreed to sort of take questions from the audience and interact with all of you, because here in this room, we have all kinds of people, and I think communicating what you learned, what you're doing and everything, and clarifying with the Cabinet Secretary would be a great opportunity for all of us. So we thank you again, sir, for being here with us and energizing us with your presence, and we are looking forward to listening to you.
Chairman, Capacity Building Commission, Chairperson, Capacity Building Commission. See how out of date I am. The member, Capacity Building Commission, both members. Secretary personnel, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Is the mic okay? It's fine? It's okay. Okay. Seems to be. It's really a pleasure for me to be here today to mark the beginning of Mission Karmayogi Sadhana Saptah. I memorized that before coming. I happened to be the expenditure secretary when the ideas of creating the Capacity Building Commission and Mission Karmayogi, Karmayogi Bharat were floated. And I still remember that particular EFC meeting. Mr. Chandramouli was the secretary, and Mr. Katikitala Srinivas made the presentation in that meeting. What seemed then, as Dr. Balasubramaniam said, what seemed then like a distant dream, sort of pie in the sky, has actually become a reality today. And it's one of those strange quirks. In the civil service, you very rarely get to see something from beginning to end. You either see the beginning, or you see the middle, or you see the end. In this particular case, I've been privileged to see it at the beginning and see it when it has actually reached maturity. So it's a rare sort of pleasure to be here. Most of the people in this room are senior officers, and I want to make a direct point about what that means for the Sadhana Saptah. Learning cultures in institutions are necessarily set from the top, and for this day, the culture was set, from the top by the Prime Minister in the morning. But it's the same thing that one expects all the secretaries to do in their respective departments. If senior leadership treats this week as a routine, calendar, compulsory obligation, then your teams will do the same. If, on the other hand, the senior leadership of a ministry engages seriously, encourages learning on IGOT, participates in the various discussions, asks questions, and leads by example, then that culture will seep through the whole of the organization. There's also an important role that states have to play, and going beyond states up to the districts, and quite a few of you are from the state governments. Mission Karmayogi started in the center, but it is not really a central initiative, it's a national initiative. So the most important frontier, or maybe the next frontier for the Mission Karmayogi, is really making this touch the districts and the levels below the districts. Citizens experience the government directly at the district and block level, and our arrangement here in terms of Mission Karmayogi will only truly deliver its value when the officers who implement government programs at the block level are equipped and motivated with the capabilities that they need to do the tasks that they have to do. I want to appeal to the state representatives here today that Mission Karmayogi, as I said, is a national initiative, not a central initiative. It is not something that you're being asked to join by invitation. It is something that you ought to join by necessity. It is something that your states need, your government servants need. Every one of you has a lot of work to do in your respective states. You need to do it as competently as possible, and you need to equip your staff to be able to deliver the increased expectations that are coming. The Department of Personnel and Training, the Capacity Building Commission, and Karmayogi Bharat are committed to supporting that expansion through Unnati, which I'm sure you've been told about, through shared training infrastructure, and through frameworks that states can adapt to your own contexts, to your own languages, to your own curricula, and to your own needs. But you need to own that if that is to be effective. I'm going to be very brief in these remarks and then leave it open to questions. But before I do that, I want to ask, and then I'll answer it myself like a good IGOT tutorial, a seemingly rhetorical question. Why should you take Mission Karmayogi and this whole week seriously? This is my semi-rhetorical question. So, should you take it seriously because you have all been instructed to be here and you are all good government servants who obey all written instructions? The answer is yes. If you are a good government servant, you should obey instructions and turn up. So, I'm glad that you've done that. Should you take it seriously because the chairman, Capacity Building Commission, the members, the secretary DOPT, who is very important to many of you, have all exhorted you to take it seriously? Answer is yes, you should take it very seriously. They are telling you they are important people. Should you take it seriously because I am asking you to do it? Yes, some of you may have something to do with in the future, so you better take it seriously. And should you take it seriously because the Prime Minister has called upon you to take this seriously to improve your capabilities and become Karmayogis? Answer is obviously yes. You must take it very seriously when the Prime Minister himself has told you to do it. Should you take it seriously because the general public, whom we are all paid salaries to serve, will benefit from it? Yes. That's why we are here. And if they need you to be competent, you should take it seriously. But beyond all this and bringing it to a much lower level, I want to say that you should take it seriously because it is in your own personal interest to take it seriously. And let me explain. A civil servant gets a certain number of promotions automatically. At least the kind of civil servants who are sitting in this room, almost all of you will get a certain number of promotions automatically. We all know about the force of gravity. We've all passed the general studies exam, so that much of physics we all know. There is a force of gravity. It produces an acceleration of 9.8 meters per second squared. It's a downward pull. It automatically pulls everything. If I throw up a ball, it will come down with that acceleration. That's a physical phenomenon. In the civil services, there is a reverse gravity. In the civil services, the pull is upward, not downward, and this force is called seniority. So you accelerate upwards at a particular speed, which depends on which service, which department, maybe slightly different. It's all close to 9.8, something per promotion and so on. So, but it is there. It's an inexorable force. So regardless of capability, regardless of whether you attend this saptah or not, whether you do in-service training or not, whether you go to phase 3, phase 5 or not, certain promotions automatically come. You are pulled up by that force of gravity. So in that case, why bother? It's also a point of view that one could legitimately argue. Not perhaps legitimately, but one could argue. Okay. So there is this common perception that regardless of capability, one gets promoted by efflux of time. And so things like training and capacity building are for those who don't have much else to do. They are the kind of people who have time and not enough work, so they better do capacity building. This perception is widespread. It is not completely false, but it is not completely true. One can get to certain grades gravitationally, but getting to apex positions, what is apex differs from place to place, organization to organization, is not so easy. It is not gravitational. Competence and ability to deliver become bigger and bigger factors as you rise higher and higher in the service. They become very big factors in getting to the top posts in any organization, department, service, agency, anywhere. Competence and ability to deliver may not be the only factors in getting to the top in organization, admittedly. There are other crucial factors. But I want to stress, most of the people who get to the high or highest positions in government are there because they are perceived as competent and able to deliver. They are not there because of gravitational pull. Gravitational pull gets you to a certain grade. It doesn't get you to a certain post or a posting or a responsibility. I think this is something we need to understand. Unlike 30 years ago, the pace of change and the pace at which new knowledge, or at least what passes for knowledge, is created is very rapid. It is difficult for us to keep pace with that. There was a time when I joined the service when if you kept reading the right newspapers, journals, and the occasional very important book, then you were up to date. That time is gone. It's no longer possible to keep up to date that easily. And if you don't keep pace, your capability to do the job that the government and the citizens expect of you will decline. There's a rate of depreciation to your existing skills. It's higher. The rate of depreciation today is faster than it was in the 70s, 80s, or 90s. Secondly, the world around you is also changing. The laws of physics don't change, but the laws of civil administration might change. You know, the sort of the upward gravitational pull as a force in the civil service, I'm predicting, I'm at the end of my career, so I can make loose predictions with no accountability, is likely to weaken. The gravitational pull is likely to weaken, and there's likely to be greater stress on performance versus seniority. I think this is for the sub 60 people in the room, not for people like me. So in the world of the future, mere seniority may count less than it counts today. Thus, if I can be very brief, there are two sets of reasons why continuous learning is important. The first, it is important for the government. It's important for society. It is important for citizens. But second, it is also important for you if you as individuals want to reach your own true potential in your chosen calling. So beyond this, I leave it to you. Thank you.
So I'm sure many of you have a lot of questions. So you have to raise your hand so that we can reach the mic to you. The sub 60 may because I think the provocation came from the cabinet secretary indicating to the need for stress on more on performance than the seniority. I think some of us would want a little more clarity on what he would be meaning by that.
That was the first question.
No, I think so. Let me start the ball rolling by, because this is something that we in the Capacity Building Commission have been sort of trying to push. And I know since I have been on the other side also, the calibration of how much do you insist on performance going forward, especially when you're looking at a competency-focused, citizen-centric governance coming into place. I don't think we anymore have the luxury of an entitled seniority-based years of experience of service, whether you delivered the service or not, but you existed with a badge added to your name. And therefore, you're guaranteed a certain number of promotions, and seniority sort of overrides everything else. I think we have moved past that as an option. And that luxury of not focusing on performance and delivering on outcomes, we don't have anymore. So do you still think that we should push that performance-based, what I have been actually always been trying to have this conversation with you, and it's been a very difficult conversation because you have your own views, but I thought maybe you would elaborate on that today.
So I think it is extremely difficult to introduce a performance evaluation into promotions in government. This is a very serious view that I hold, not without studying the literature or not without studying performance management systems in the private sector. I am aware that I have a very distinguished private sector gentleman sitting in front of me. I am aware of, Mr. Narayanamurthy's views on how, if we were to use the Infosys performance management system, how beautiful the IAS would function. I'm aware of this, but I don't agree with him, because I think the contexts are extremely different. I want to start by saying that had there been a performance management system of the kind that is typically found in the private sector, which gives a large weight for management expectations and what you have delivered on what management wants from you, I would probably have been dismissed or retrenched in October 2001. No, I'm very serious. I survived in the civil service because the civil service protects civil servants from arbitrary dismissal, removal, and reduction in rank under Article 311. I am personally saying with complete conviction that I would not have survived a private sector management system. I would not have been where I am today if we had that system, because the level of discretion that it would have given my management and the kind of management which a state government or a central government at the political level can have. I'm not saying we have it today, but there are governments who can use these powers if they were available in a manner that Dr. Balasubramaniam cannot even conceive of. So this is a very serious matter. Our forefathers, the constitution framers, were not ignorant when they put these protections into the constitution. If I were to decide how performance is to be measured, and if that can be, if my minister in some department, by the way, I'm not referring to any, I'm being very hypothetical. I hope there's no press here. They're not here, no? Sure? Okay, right. No. If in certain departments of the government in which I have worked, and I don't want to name center, state, nothing, it's all purely hypothetical, but they are based on real life case studies. There are expectations from government which are contrary to law, which are contrary to the constitution. If that is what your manager expects of you, and if you are in a top-down assessment system where marks are given for different kinds of this and that, what would you do? You will get rid of the honest, you will keep the efficient. You will get efficient people, but they'll be efficient at many things. So if efficiency is the only criterion, then we can have performance management very easily in the government. But the government also has, the civil servant in India has a function which goes beyond carrying out the mandate of today's elected government. And that is the part of the mandate that is very difficult to build into a performance management system. Secondly, today, in a particular context, you may think that the mandate coming from the political executive is public interest, legitimate, honest, very good. But the system has to prepare for all kinds of, political situations. And not all situations are of a particular kind. So the system that we build must be robust. It must be able to handle these different situations. From that point of view, I am not yet convinced that it is easy. The one thing that the system, for example, in October 2001, I told my wife, don't worry, I'll still retire as additional chief secretary, probably in archives. And it was true. I would have retired even if I had not come to the government of India. That gravitational pull would have taken me to the additional chief secretary of the Department of Archives. It's actually quite a nice building in Chennai. They have excellent archives. They have Clive's marriage certificate. They have all kinds of beautiful documents of the East India Company. I could have enjoyed myself in that post. I'd even planned for it, because I thought I can do this, I can do that. I've been to it, and there are some wonderful documents in that archives. But what I'm trying to say is that before you talk about performance management in government, you must understand how government actually works at various levels, at the central level, in a ministry, in a state government, in a state department, in a district, and who will assess performance. How will you assess performance? A collector has a tenure of 1 year, 3 months. Which initiative do you say he is responsible for the success of, and which one he is not responsible for the success of or the failure of? It is devilishly difficult to measure performance in that kind of direct correlation with personnel management. In the public sector, the lag times are long. Tenures are short. The link between input and output and outcome is tenuous. It is sometimes because you are experimenting. You are trying some new initiative, it fails. Is it a failure of the officer? Or is it a failure of the initiative, which has been imposed on him from someone else? These things are not actually, it is not as if, there is this excuse that we give that we are different from the private sector, we can't copy anything from the private sector. Sometimes it's an excuse, I agree. But there are some genuine, legitimate differences of purpose between a public servant and a servant in a company. Because the public servant doesn't only owe his loyalty to his minister or to his government. He has a loyalty to the constitution. Each one of us takes an oath of upholding that. And we are here to sometimes not do what we are instructed to do if it is contrary to what we are supposed to do. That is not something that is so easily found in the private sector. Yes, in the private sector, similar things happen with insider trading, sometimes with some kinds of transactions, but the number of occasions when you encounter that is very different. And it's very, very, if we didn't have this non-linkage to promotion, I worry that you will have an increase in efficiency if you bring the link, but you will have with it an increase in many other things also.
नमस्कार सर, मेरा नाम धर्मेंद्र कुमार सिंह है और मैं झारखंड सचिवालय में सहायक प्रशाखा पदाधिकारी हूं सर। वर्तमान में मैं दिल्ली विश्वविद्यालय से विधि स्नातक का छात्र हूं और मैं 6ठे सेमेस्टर में हूं, मेरा कंप्लीट हो जाएगा इस वर्ष। सर मेरा सवाल ये है कि अभी पंजाब हरियाणा हाई कोर्ट ने एक जजमेंट पिछले साल ही पास किया था सर 2025 में, जिसमें एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव लॉ अखिल भारतीय सेवा के पदाधिकारियों को प्रशिक्षित करने के लिए लाल बहादुर शास्त्री नेशनल एकेडमी में प्रावधान करने की व्यवस्था की गई थी सर। इसके संदर्भ में मैंने एक आरटीआई भी फाइल की है और मैं जानना चाहता हूं कि उसके संदर्भ में क्या प्रगति हुई है अभी तक। मेरा ये सर है कि उसमें इसलिए आया था कि कुछ बिजली विभाग से संबंधित लोगों का
आप ये सवाल इस यहाँ पे पूछने का नहीं है।
मैम ये सुख हम लोग सीखना ही चाहते हैं ना।
आपको अलग से हम बता सकते।
मैम प्लीज़, हम बिल्कुल गांव से आए हैं और यहाँ पे सब लोग बहुत बात करते हैं, लेकिन हम सहायक प्रशाखा पदाधिकारी होकर भी चाहते हैं कि सीखें कुछ बढ़िया से, हम चीज़ों को समझें जो हमको प्रॉब्लम हो रही है। और इसके लिए हमने आईगोट प्लेटफॉर्म पे भी कई बार लिखा, सीबीसी चेयरमैन मैम आपको भी मैंने लिखा है, ईमेल किया है। मुझे जो प्रॉब्लम समझ में आती है कि जो विभागीय कार्रवाई चलाई जाती है उसमें प्रिंसिपल ऑफ नेचुरल जस्टिस का पालन नहीं किया जाता है और इसकी वजह से कोर्ट में केसेस जाते हैं और वहाँ से फिर वो उसको सेट असाइड कर दिया जाता है। और फिर ये इसी वजह
सवाल क्या है?
सवाल ये है सर कि हम आईगोट कर्मयोगी पे मैं कैसे अपने प्रश्नों को रख पाऊँ और इसके बारे में अगर मुझे कोई।
आईगोट एक सवाल पूछने वाला प्लेटफॉर्म नहीं है,
सीखने के लिए है सर।
हाँ, सीखने के लिए है। तो
आई
एम श्योर देयर मस्ट बी सम program on administrative law somewhere. If it's not there, I'll certainly request them to make available a program on administrative law. जहाँ तक academy का सवाल है, वहाँ administrative law is taught in the academy, I'm sure.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, I am Abhishek Aryan. I work as an MTS in Office of Principal CCIT, West Bengal and Sikkim. Sir, my question is, I am a frontline worker in the Income Tax Department, and today our Honorable Prime Minister sir also told that this platform, this transformation is for 80% of the frontline workers. So, what should be our mission and vision, and what is your mission and vision for us through the IGOT platform?
You are in the income tax.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Look, what should be your mission and vision? I am not competent to set the mission and vision of each of these massive departments, but I think something very simple which I'll tell you. You have two objectives in your department. One is to collect all the revenue that is legitimately due to the government. That's your mission number one. Number two is not to collect the revenue which is not legitimately due to your government. Please balance both of these, you'll be fine. Okay?
Sir, actually, I'm learning a lot, sir. I'm curious about that. Can we look at this possibility of having public feedback in appraisal, at least for the frontline workers in the public delivery system or government system, sir? This is, I just wanted to listen to your thoughts.
So again, it would be nice to have it. The problem is, you know, there is a sort of, I think there is even a word for it, I forget it. Once you use something as a tool of management, it ceases to be accurate. I'll give you the example of the census. Our censuses are generally very accurate. India has a very good record on census. but we don't use the data at any granular level. So if I ask you a question, if I come to you as a census enumerator and I ask you, are you male or female? How many people are there in your family? Do you belong to this religion or that religion? Do you do this or you do that? You give me an answer. The answer which you give me does not entitle you to anything. If you tell me you are this community or handicapped or this or that, the mere fact of giving me that answer entitles you to nothing. Therefore, I usually get the correct answer. And therefore, my census figures in aggregate are very accurate because nobody has any incentive to change it. On the other hand, if I tell you that by filling this census form, I'll also simultaneously issue your citizenship certificate, your caste certificate, your this, you will start changing your answer. I mean, you may then start changing. Somebody may say, I actually belong to community X because this may be beneficial to me. So when you start using the, similarly, if I take feedback and say that this feedback will be used to decide your performance, people start orienting their behavior towards, they try to find out who is the feedback provider, who are these places, where is, for example, you know this, the thing that is done for television, the TRP. There was a scam when, I think one of, I won't name it, let me call it the Moon TV. They decided to, they found out where the TRP boxes were kept, in whose houses the TRP boxes were kept. They gave them an extra TRP box and they said, you please switch on Moon TV in this TRP box 24 hours. You watch whatever you want on this other TRP box. Seriously, it happened. So then you boost your TRP ratings because it appears that this person is constantly watching only Moon TV. So this kind of thing, my problem is it is conceptually good. We are trying to do this, by the way. The 360-degree feedback system, which is used in certain establishment decisions, is that. It's not public, it is perception-based, but it is something similar. So I would agree with you, it would be a good thing to do. But getting it done in a systematic manner as part of a formal, that is why many of these things in government remain informal. Because to put so much weight on it that it becomes part, actually the only objective thing which is completely objective, foolproof, is seniority. So even that there are disputes. There are cases, the gentleman there was talking about writ petition. So there are but no, I'm not being facetious. What I'm saying is there is a certain merit in objectivity that at least you know, this is not manipulated. But I agree with you, we need to find a way of but in some sense it gets reflected in the minds of the political executive when making postings and transfers. So they often get this feedback. I mean, the elected representatives in a state government, in a Zilla Parishad, they do have a lot of connect with the public. And I think in the design of the civil service system, the assumption is that feedback will go to the political executive. The political executive will know that this collector is very responsive to the public. That collector never leaves his house. And this collector spends all his time, doing only self-publicity through social media and doesn't do any real work. So these things are expected to come through the political executive. But again, I'm not against taking public feedback. The methodology will need to actually evolve and make it robust.
Good evening. Good evening, sir. Myself, Dr. Shashidhar. I am a consultant psychiatrist as well as a hospital administrator from Nimans, Bangalore. So as a psychiatrist, I'll put the questions in this psychological way. The difference between the private sector and the government sector is that private sector, there is an immediate gratification of the reward. That is, that the reward may be positive or the negative depending upon your performance. Whereas the government is like you sow a mango tree sapling now and you get the yield later, but whereas it is a sustained thing. So is there any plan or then things going on to balance, make a delicate balance between these private concepts and the government sector?
I think it's a good question. We need to bring in some of the good practices of don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we have nothing to learn from there.
Yes.
I'm just taking the position that we cannot adopt it wholesale. We have to adopt it maybe, for example, perhaps we could have an objective measurement at some stage in the career where you take another UPSC type, different, not the old civil service exam, some new kind of You ask people to write a project, appear at an interview, do some assessment of people in mid-career, which is objective and across the board, not by the immediate boss on the immediate subject of what somebody is doing, because that is the difficult part. The difficult part is to do, if you can do it objectively, I think it is worth doing. The point is it must be done objectively. If we cannot do it objectively, then I prefer seniority. That's all I'm saying.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, Acha, ma'am, sorry.
Sir, you've initiated something which to my mind is quite unprecedented, remarkable, which is the administrative scorecard. And again, I think it's also a capacity building measure. What has been your experience with it, sir?
I want to make it clear, there is no link between the scorecard and performance, because the people who are the recipients of scorecards have no further promotions mostly to aspire to. So we have delinked that at that level. But no, seriously, I think the purpose of the scorecard is, it's exactly what we were discussing earlier. The fact that we cannot adopt wholesale methods from the private sector doesn't mean that we don't adopt it piecemeal where it can work. So what we are trying to do with the first, let me mention all the sort of caveats which I've mentioned in my opening letter to you. I know that what is measured in the scorecard is not complete. I know that there are important parameters which are left out. I know that most of the qualitative parameters are missing. I know that there are possibilities of false positives, false negatives in the scorecard. Yet, I think it is better than not measuring these things at all. So we are measuring things like how quickly do you, on average, dispose of files. Because every file in government has a purpose behind it. Usually there is a citizen behind it. A file is not just a file. A file is somebody's application, somebody's request, some project which is to be executed. So files have purposes. So if files have purposes, they need to be decided quickly. So we measure disposal of files. We measure how long you take to respond to somebody else's cabinet note. Because you are casting a negative externality on somebody else if you are not giving your contribution on time. So we then have certain department-specific indicators. So if you are in the Panchayati Raj department and you're supposed to be doing, what is that? That something SAR, the Sabha SAR. Yeah. So how many villages have got the Sabha SAR or not? That's your objective. You may say Sabha SAR is just an output. It's not an outcome. Let's measure the output. Let's see if you've at least reached the output stage. So it is an attempt to bring some quantitative measurement into the work of a secretary to the Government of India, while recognizing that there are many non-quantitative elements and that this is not a complete measurement. The fact that it cannot be measured perfectly doesn't mean it should not be measured at all. So this is an example of what we are trying to say is we improve our systems of measurement, while being careful to be aware that somebody who clears files quickly but advises on gives all the wrong policy advice, which we are not measuring, is an excellent secretary. I'm not making that conclusion. There may be secretaries who give excellent policy advice but sit on files. There may be those who clear all the files and give all the wrong policy suggestions. Or there may be somebody who do both. So, that we are measuring one, we are not measuring the other. But still doesn't mean we shouldn't measure this because we can't measure that. So it is an attempt to bring in there's a concept of a balanced scorecard in the private sector, Kaplan and Norton and so on. So I'm not claiming it's a balanced scorecard. I'm only saying it's an administrative scorecard. It's not a performance scorecard. But yes, this is an attempt to sort of infuse some objectivity into the.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am, and other dignitaries. Sir, I'm Rahul Agrawal. I'm Deputy Director and faculty member in Institute of Secretary Training and Management, ISTM. So, sir, as a faculty member, I've consumed some courses. I have curated some courses also. And as, sir, you were mentioning, some out of genuine interest, but mostly out of necessity also. So, sir, the point is, sir, when we talk about an academic perspective, the efficacy of any intervention is on establishing the causation. That basically those courses are creating any impact or not. But the only metric which I see on the portal is karma points. And the karma point is something which is only on the consuming of the course rather than the impact on the learner. So the point is, I'm not aware if CBC has some other metrics for that. But as a trainer, when I exhort some trainee that do some courses on iGot portal, he comes, sir, what is the benefit for me apart from just having karma points? So this I want to ask.
Firstly, I am a sort of religious person. So I believe that if you chant the Lord's name 108 times, you get some merit. If you chant 1008 times, you will get more merit, etc. So I mean, for those of us who are like that, you do more courses, you get more. The more jap is good. Okay, theek hai. But leave that aside. Serious answer. You're right. It is not clear. The link is not always clear. It's a very serious point that you're making, and we need to make a greater connection. But I would say that there is probably no negative productivity to taking a course. So the question is, if I take this course, do I get any benefit? The possibility is I get no benefit, or I get some benefit.
Sir, if I just interject, I will just reiterate your point that if you get more karma points, other people say you don't have anything else to do. So this is something, sir. I mean, so that's a negative thing.
Anyway,
sir.
that is those kinds of peer pressures. You should have a course on how to ignore peer pressure. By the way, most peer pressure in most organizations is negative for performance. Okay, so ignore peer pressure. Peer pressure usually pulls you to the average. It is the general, peers do not like people who are above average. So if you want to be above average, don't listen to your peers. By definition, average is different from, anyway, sorry?
That we actually measured this in 4 ministries, Ayush secretaries, their RD, etc. We actually found association to people doing courses to the perception of the employees around the person who did the courses that their performances got better. So I think there's a lot of silver lining in this. They're actually getting better. How much better, that kind of data we don't have. Therefore, we're not able to measure.
That
but
may
there
not be easy to measure.
Yeah, association is there.
Yeah. But I would say that, look, most of us are generalists, especially in the central secretariat. You know, you're going from one post to another. Even in income tax, if you suddenly go to international taxation from, say, TDS, the job is different. You need to learn. I think intuitively we all know that we are not experts at what we are doing. Until you have reached the stage where you say, I am now an expert in this, I can write the IGOT course. If it's connected to your job, the more you learn, the better you are at your job. I think that is an ethic we have to develop. I think looking for performance metrics it's okay, it's good, and if they have it, it's great. But it is our obligation to be good at our job. So if you're taking an unrelated course, that's different. But if a course is related to your work, it is an obligation. The government is giving it to you free. You are not paying for this course. You're doing it at the convenience of your desk. If that is not enough of an incentive to improve yourself, then perhaps you don't deserve to improve yourself, and please remain in that below average status where you want to be. But what I want to say is, self-improvement is something that I think with a little bit of introspection, every one of us would probably like to do. So I think these are sort of the lower order excuses for not doing it. Don't take it too seriously. If people laugh at you for being better educated, let them.
Sir, Praveen, sir, this side. Sir, Praveen, sir, this side. Sir, you said in your, sir, this side, sir. Praveen Prakash, sir. So you said in your speech that to reach this, doing this course is in our interest, because if somebody wants to reach at the top, then he should be well equipped with all knowledge, skill. Taking cue from that, what's your personal view of giving deputation to a serving? I'm not in government no more, sir. I've come out of government. But from the working civil servants perspective, I'm asking this question. What's your personal view of permitting the civil servant, working civil servants to go on deputation to private sector in India? Because there has to be cross-learning both sides. We have, when saying the private sector will come to government, bring the best practices to government, then there can be also the civil servants can go to private sector for 5 to 7 years and come back and can bring those best practices to governments.
Again, in theory, it would be good. The practical difficulty is in ensuring that the person who comes back doesn't become an agent of that company in the sovereign functions of the government and remains free of conflicts of interest after he has come back. The reverse is not so difficult. A person going from government to the private sector, there's very little that you can carry with you from the government into the private sector. The private sector does very few favors for the government. If they pay taxes, we are happy. So there is no favor to be done from them. But on the other hand, the government can confer favors on the private sector. So the control of conflict of interest is the key to making it happen. It is not impossible, but there are, like the US permits this very freely, this kind of revolving door between regulators and the private sector back to the regulator. But there are horror stories also of those revolving doors. So the question is, the typical Mandarin civil service systems, the Westminster style, full-term civil service systems, have more difficulty in this two-way going and coming. And if you can see, these systems have certain strengths. Some of the things that you're seeing in one of the world's most powerful countries in terms of governance and problems in governance are because they don't have an entrenched civil service system. The level of arbitrariness that you see in certain very powerful countries in recent months is because the advice comes completely from a captive, politically appointed system. There's no permanent system underpinning the advice that is given to the political executive. So that system has the pros, but it also has these cons. The permanent civil service system prevents those excesses, this gyration from here to here, which you see in certain countries. I don't want to name them. You're seeing them every day. And you're seeing the kind of statements that come and how it changes from week to week and day to day. And so that comes when the advice is coming from a completely political system, that everybody in that system answers to the same political tune. The civil service system, the Westminster model, is different. It reduces, it keeps the political level at the top, but it keeps a sort of permanent structure at the bottom. It's a balancing act. It has some negatives. When you want to move quickly on some good political initiative, the system is slow. A completely political system would be faster. So it has pros and cons. But so to come back to your point, I'm not against it as a principle, but we have to be very careful about how the details are worked out on the two-way going in and coming out. People coming in from the private sector, I have less of a problem with. But civil servants going and coming back is the point where we have to be very careful about how we manage the conflicts of interest. And the other thing, the private sector should be aware that if you come back, you will not work in any ministry which can help them. Will they still take you? That also you have to check before we...
Sir, my name is Manoj Yadav. I am Director General of Haryana Institute of Public Administration. Today, Capacity Building Commission has done 5 years. They have done a great job. The whole team deserves commendation. But of last 5 years, as a very serious and regular reader of newspapers, I find that the instances of misconduct, particularly by younger civil servants less than 10 years of service, that is rising. And that started rising since the UPSC introduced the ethics paper, particularly. But, so how can, are we going to have an integrity building commission also, sir? Or somehow, because that I think is more critical than capacity, sir.
No, I agree with you that there are serious concerns on the integrity side, and that something, there are many perhaps sociological, I don't have enough of a good answer to give you. I share your concern. But I don't think we need an integrity building commission. We have a Lokpal, we have a Central Vigilance Commission, we have a CVO in every department. So if creating organizations can solve a problem, this problem was solved by the Santanam Committee in 1968. So, but these problems are not solved by creating institutions, unfortunately. So it is a challenge. I don't have an easy answer to give you. I think we have to, and I think teaching ethics is probably only a solution for those ethical violations which are unconscious. Teaching ethics cannot cure conscious violations of ethics.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. I'll just add something to that. I think it's something, as Sir has said, it's a concern that we, I guess, all of us share. But it's something that we have to keep, the emphasis on integrity is something that we, as individuals, as organizations, as, entities, have to keep emphasizing and re-emphasizing at every occasion, perhaps even through mentoring. If you find there are, junior officers or anybody else who's, slightly going wayward and all that, I think it's up to us also to, stand up and take ownership. I think as, as government departments, senior officials, and heads of organizations, I think we should also probably, chip in and do our bit. But it's something that right from induction into any service, at various stages, through various training programs, perhaps even through IGOT and similar capacity building initiatives, it's something that has to be enforced and reinforced and re-reinforced. Thank you.
Yeah, can
I have one question? Yes, sir. So I'm Jyotsna Sitli, a retired Indian Forest Service officer, now contributing to Mission Karmayogi. So now ethos of our public service delivery, as invoked by our Honorable Prime Minister, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas and Sabka Prayas. So given this, so what I really see, so we have really championed on Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Now given this Sabka Vishwas and Sabka Prayas, now because of our social and emergent environment problems, this is something we as public servants, and especially in the context of developing more muscle power, executive muscle power, to the ongoing subsidy syndrome that is after every election, whatever. So given that, I was really thinking aloud in terms of having all this capacity building efforts going on, how we can integrate things like convergence across from within the government, that will break silos also, and at the same time it will help us invite expertise and resources from Bazaar and Samaj. So can we work out a framework in terms of putting this criteria in our APAR? That will be really good to measure whatever effort is going on, because we are preparing our public servants for future. So this is very important, where mere calling of public participation is not a public service, what I can say, obligation. It is something like having an efficient, responsive and collaborative governance is a strong business case, has to be a strong business case to make our country fiscally efficient. So this were your views, sir. Thank you.
I'm really not clear what exactly is your question, but I think I've got the general sense of it.
My question is, can we put, like I have been hearing, that it is very difficult to measure the performance of a public servant from a private standpoint. But within the government system, can convergence be one of the, architecture?
Could be,
where we could,
but again, I would not want to generalize. Convergence works well, say, at a district collector's level. But it doesn't work for an officer whose job is to ensure that income tax refunds are given on time. I mean, there is when we talk about capacity building across government, there are many different functions. So it is so varied that the task they have is actually quite, gargantuan. It is difficult. So I was giving an answer to this young gentleman. How do you ensure that everybody gets, if he's not due to pay tax, how does he get his refund on time? Now that is a very specialized, it's not really a convergence with anything else. So I'm giving that as a very loose example, that convergence is important, but I wouldn't generalize. I think convergence is important in delivery of field services. Convergence is important in certain departments which have lots of interconnections. But there's also a need for deep specialization in certain departments, which also we lack. We are very generalized in some of the departments where we need to be very specialized. So it actually varies a lot from department to department. I think convergence is very important. It's an important deliverable, but not everywhere.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, can I? Can you
conclude कर रहे हैं हम मेरा ख्याल है it's
okay.
now it's over.
Okay.
I will request जगदीप गुप्ता जी सेक्रेटरी CBC कृपया वो vote of thanks के लिए बता रही.
Respected Cabinet Secretary Dr. TB Somnathan sir, Secretary DOPT Rachna Shah ma'am, Chairperson Capacity Building Commission Radha Chauhan ma'am, members Capacity Building Commission Dr. R. Balasubramaniam and Dr. Alka Mittal ma'am, distinguished secretaries, senior officers from ministries, departments, state governments and training institutes, and all friends. First of all, I would like to congratulate all for the 5th Foundation Day of the Capacity Building Commission. In a short span, this commission has played a key role in shaping the more structured, competency-based approach to the capacity building aligned with needs of the governance today. Today's program has taken us through a very meaningful journey as the Honorable Prime Minister in his inspirational message reminded us about the mantra of Nagarik Deva Bhav. Citizens are supreme. So all our efforts should be towards citizen centricity. Then addressed by Principal Secretary to Honorable PM Dr. P.K. Mishra further reinforced the importance of building a governance system that is agile, future ready and anchored in continuous learning. We also witnessed in the morning session several important and interesting launches today: Karmayogi Geet, Karmayogi Kshamta Connect, national rollout of Rashtriya Jan Seva program, then trust-based learner assessment framework and AI-powered Amrit Gyan Kosh. Before lunch, we had a very interesting session, master class on capacity building for an entrepreneurial state by Chief Economic Advisor, Dr. Nageshwaran. Then after that, we had 2 thematic sessions, first on future-ready training institutes, which highlight the need to reimagine how our training institutes training system should function. And the other one was on Karmayogi quality framework, which focused on ensuring that capacity building is standardized, measurable, and outcome-oriented. The focus today has been on building capable public servants. Sir, on behalf of DOPT, CBC, and KB, I would like to thank Dr. T.V. Somanathan, sir, Cabinet Secretary, Government of India, for gracing the occasion. Sir, your presence surely has motivated all the Karmayogis here. And sir, you have very aptly elaborated the need for the capacity building of the civil servants. My thanks to Madam Rachana Chha, Secretary DOPT, for her leadership and continuous support. Radha Chauhan ma'am for her vision in steering this initiative of Mission Karmayogi. I would also like to thank all senior officers from ministries, departments, state governments and training institutions for their participation. I would also like to thank participants from different state governments, and my appreciation to team DOPT, our knowledge partners, Karmayogi Bharat and my CBC team. My thanks to media for helping to take this message forward. As we move forward, the responsibility lies with all of us to translate this vision into action and to ensure that capacity building becomes the continuous part of governance and that it leads to real improvement in service delivery for citizens. Once again, I thank you all. Thank you.
थैंक यू सो मच। और देवियों सज्जनों, साधना सप्ताह का हमारा आज का इनाग्रल डे, सिर्फ इनाग्रल डे कंप्लीट हो रहा है, लेकिन 8 अप्रैल तक ये सेशंस हमारे अलग अलग मोड पर वर्चुअल और फिज़िकल तरीके से चलते रहेंगे। आप ज़रूर उनमें पार्टिसिपेट करें। एक लक्ष्य, गोल है हमारे साधना सप्ताह का, उसके साथ जुड़ें। और अभी फ़िलहाल आपसे ये रिक्वेस्ट ज़रूर होगी कि आप सभी चाय के लिए पधारें। प्लीज़ जॉइन अस